Man, what do you think about Jerry Jones still not wanting to start Trey Lance?
I mean, it just makes you wonder, right? Like, what do they get him for?
Yeah, it's like you gave up a fourth round for the guy. At this point, you're not gonna make the playoffs. He said Cooper Rush gives them a better chance to win, but like it's not like it's a big margin there. It's not like between as if Dak was playing versus Trey Lance, right? It's like at least see what you got with Trey. You gave up a pick for him. What if he goes out there and shows some promise? Maybe he's your QB2 next season, or worst case, maybe somebody's like, "Hey, we'll trade for Trey. Like, here's another fifth for him." You never know.
Yeah, but if Jerry Jones was logical, Dallas Cowboys would have probably had a Super Bowl by now. So he's always been illogical.
I mean, as a Niner fan, I'm cool with him continuing to run the show over there. The Cowboys will not go anywhere as long as he continues to oversee everything the way he does. I don't care.
100%. 100%.
Man, how about our 49ers though? Getting a win, a rare victory Monday it was yesterday for the Niners. How did it feel waking up yesterday with the dub?
Man, it's been crazy, man. It's been a month, since we got to experience that, obviously.
Hmm.
Um, so I was definitely glad, they got the win in dominating fashion. It just kind of makes you wonder, like, where this team's head was at, like, pretty much the whole season. Like, why couldn't they do this at the beginning of the season? But I feel like there's a lot of things going on with them, at the beginning and in the middle of the season. So it just felt like everyone just played loose on Sunday. Like Brock looked great. Offensive line didn't commit penalties. Defensive line got 7 sacks. Like, this is what we expected the entire season with such a stacked roster. And, we're missing so many like superstars right now on both sides of the football. So it just kind of makes you wonder, like, had this team kind of put it together, maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, if they would have had that sense of urgency, or like if they would have woken up, maybe the season would have been a little bit different.
Yeah, it's there was reports that there was a team meeting on Saturday night, which I think they typically have, but this time a couple of guys, the players spoke up. And notably, it was Brock Purdy and Diamador Lenore that spoke up in the meeting, and they said both guys just really, really stressed the sense of urgency, the sense of desperateness that they have to play with, and they said that Brock Purdy really, really kind of lit a fire under the guys and, said that this is not 49ers football that we've been playing. We know we're better than this, and we have to come out and play like our season's on the line because it is, and they said they felt really inspired by what him and Demo had to say. So it sucks that it's coming so late in the season and the season's is where it is right now, but it was good to see them come out and just get a dominant win like that, right? For sure. Yeah, the Bears aren't a good team, worst offensive line in the league, rookie quarterback, all those things going against them, right? But that's what you're supposed to do against a team like that. They won 38-13, right? That's how it should be. Led 24 at halftime. I mean, they came down in the first drive, a couple minutes, put the ball in the back of the end zone. That's what you should be doing against a team like the Chicago Bears, who are not that good, right? On a 7-game losing streak now. So it would have been bad if that game had come down to the wire and the Niners, even if had they got the win, if they had just squeaked out a win, there would have been like a lot of talk. But it was good to see them come out and just dominate from start to finish on both sides.
Yeah, for sure. And the fact that that first half, the Bears only had 4 yards of offense after the first half, and the Niners had 330 yards. That was only, I think, the fourth time in NFL history since 1990 that had ever happened, where the yardage total was so vast between the two teams. So they displayed their dominance against a lesser opponent, and this is what we expected the entire season. This is what we expected against the NFC West, which is considered the weakest football division in football, right? So it sucks that we gave Seattle life, we gave the Rams life, and we gave the Cardinals life to think that they have a chance to win the division, and it's all in the Niners. I mean, they had a chance to possibly be 9-4 at this juncture of the season with the way things had shaken out. Even if they would have lost to Kansas City and Minnesota, you lose that back to Buffalo and Green Bay. All the other games that they coughed up were divisional games at that juncture, and
Mm-hmm.
they were all winnable games, and it was just nice to see them finally put a game together for 4 quarters, literally. Like, I know Chicago scored 2 touchdowns in the second half, but the game was out of reach. The defense was dominating all day. Some of the backups were playing, at the beginning of the fourth quarter, so you kinda expect, the foot to be kinda taken off the gas, but one of the things that I found that was really impressive was that, the Niners actually put up offense in the second half as well,
Yeah.
which is something that we haven't seen. Like, they were actually scoring in the fourth quarter. They scored 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, so, this is something that we wanna continue to see. Obviously, we don't know what the future holds, but that's what we're gonna talk about today as well. But it was nice to see them, just dominate at all 3 levels. Like, special teams was great too. Jake Moody, he hit all of his kicks, right? Yeah, he had a couple issues yet not kicking it
Trying
out of
to
the
kick,
end
yeah.
zone. But that's typical Jake Moody. He's gonna do some dumb shit that's gonna
There's
make you
always
feel
something
like,
with him. He'll make the field goals, but then yeah, he can't kick the ball into the designated zone.
100%. And that's a position that the Niners are definitely going to evaluate in the season, no matter what John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan tell you. For sure that's something they're going to evaluate, and a lot of these guys they're going to evaluate, right? Obviously we saw today Javon Hargrave, he got a contract restructure. His future is probably in jeopardy, even though he's only played a few snaps this season, which kind of sucks. But it's been no return on the contract that they gave him, so they have to make cap space for next season. They know that they have possibly $100 million in cap space that they can free up. So it's an audition for a lot of these guys these last 4 games, regardless of the fact that they may or may not make the playoffs.
Yeah, that was interesting that they got that done so early too. Usually, when you see the Niners restructure a contract, it's because they're trying to open up more salary cap space and plan for roster additions in the upcoming season. But with this, it's looking like Javon Hargrave's time with the Niners has come to an end, because with this restructuring, they saved themselves about $18 million on the 2025 cap. Most of his guaranteed money was in 2023 and 2024 and through bonuses. Mm-hmm. And now by restructuring it, they saved themselves money and they can let him go after June 1st. And so, when the Niners sign these contracts, one thing they are very good about is having outs in the contract. They always look out for themselves, and they're not just thinking about that year or the year after, they're looking at the next 3 to 4 years as a whole. So it sucks that Hargrave couldn't stay healthy this year, suffered the bicep tear early in the season, and who knows, defense maybe would have been a little bit better with him healthy up there, but didn't end up being the case. So, Hargrave's going to be gone this season. But there was some more interesting news with the Niners. Quickly, I'll say, Isaac Guerendo dealing with a foot sprain, another running back dealing with an injury for the 49ers. Nothing we're not used to, unfortunately. He's considered day-to-day right now. There's a chance he could play on Thursday. They said that post-game when he was just kind of getting ready to leave the facility, he didn't seem like he was struggling to, put on his shoes, or wasn't like favoring his foot or limping or anything. So it seems like he's fine. He said he feels great, but obviously we'll see what his status is, whether he practices tomorrow or not. And I'm guessing it'll probably be a Thursday decision for Isaac Guerendo. If not, you can expect to see Patrick Taylor in the backfield to start the game. He had 25 rushing yards and a touchdown against the Bears. It was in garbage time, but not nothing either. We'll see what the Niners can do if Guerendo can't go. And you mentioned that Nick Bosa didn't practice today. Trent Williams didn't practice today. I think we'll all be surprised if those guys do suit up on Thursday. Hopefully they do. But if they don't, it's okay. At this point for the Niners, it's about who's on the field, not who's off of it, right? So it was good to have Hufanga back, man. In last week, there was another report I read that they said that the corners, anytime the Niners would break the huddle on the defensive side, the corners were looking to Hufanga right away. And as soon as he recognizes what the offense was going to run, what kind of schemes they were drawing up, he was calling out plays to the corners and talking coverage. So, it's good to have the veteran safety back there. And, we talked in the previous weeks about whether Hufanga will be back or not next season. I think there's a very good chance they're going to bring him back. This year he wasn't healthy, obviously coming off the ACL from last year too, but Jair Brown hasn't had like the best season. He's had moments where he's looked good, and then he has moments where he looks bad. Yeah. I think about the first Rome Odunze touchdown last week. Jair was the one who gave up that touchdown, was kind of playing behind him. And, it's easier said than done. But when I'm watching the replay of it, Jair Brown was in a good position he could have came up and made a play on the ball, maybe even got a pick. He just didn't break on it. And Odunze just runs right in front of him, kind of posts up and, grabs the ball for a touchdown. So, he didn't look too great. I think, like I said, there's a good chance that Hufanga's back next season. Yeah, Yedder Mater Gross, he did have a really good game. That was probably the best game our D-lines had all season.
For
And it's
sure.
because the Bears have the worst offensive line in the entire National Football League. But hey, you got to take advantage of that. And the Niners defense definitely did that. So props to them. Something I wanted to talk about, Deebo Samuel making headlines in the last couple of days because he had a tweet within the last couple of days, which he since deleted. And, some of the media was calling out Deebo Samuel, saying that he's been struggling this season. And he said that I'm not struggling at all. I'm just not getting the ball. That was his tweet that he since deleted. And he was asked about it today after the Niners practice in the locker room. And he just kind of gave like so half-ass answer, just kind of brushing it off. Kyle Shanahan spoke about it too and said, it's not a distraction. Deebo's obviously better when he does have the ball in his hands. And he said we have to try to get him the ball more.
Yeah.
And they haven't been doing that. But in regards to Deebo's tweet, him saying him not getting the ball, I mean, bro, get open. I don't know what to tell you. Like Deebo's never been a separation guy, right? We know where he thrives when he gets that ball
Power
in short yardage situations, running quick slants or handoffs, little screen plays, right? And then he's doing the rest with the yak. That's when he thrives, but he's never been a guy that can go out and get open. And we saw it in the Super Bowl, the biggest game of the year last season. He was getting locked up by the Chiefs corners, right? And there's a reason why the Niners went out and drafted a wide receiver in the first round and Ricky Pearsall is because they need another guy who can get open besides Brandon Ayuk. And Juwan Jennings has done a really good job of that this season, and he had a big game obviously against the Bears with about 100 yards and 2 touchdowns, I think it was. So, what are your thoughts on what Deebo had to say? I mean, is it something? Is it nothing? What do you make of it?
No, it's nothing, man. Look, he's frustrated, right? He's had a really down season. Could Kyle Shanahan get him the ball more? Yeah, sure he can. But it kind of feels like every time they throw him the ball, it's either into double coverage or he's just not catching it.
Mm-hmm.
This is probably the worst that I've seen him play since he's been a 49er in terms of gaining separation. Out of the backfield, he's basically ineffective now. Like when people see him in the backfield, they know what's coming. There's no element of surprise anymore because obviously they don't have Christian McCaffrey lined up next to him. So you don't know who's really going to get the ball when those two are on the field. But now if Deebo's lined up in the back, some shit's about to happen with Deebo. But one thing I will say is if there was ever a time that Deebo Samuel could get ready and get hot, this is the game that it can
Against the
happen.
Rams.
He owns the Rams. He owns the Rams every time he ever plays them. Last season, it was the same thing. The year before that, it was the same thing. He damn near carried us to the Super Bowl against the Rams in the NFC Championship game that year. It was all him. He saved our season on the last day of the regular season, and he almost saved our season, in the NFC Championship game with his performance. Better quarterback play, maybe we would make the Super Bowl that year, obviously. So I'm not surprised that this obviously has come to fruition because I know Deebo's been frustrated for the last 6 weeks. He hasn't looked like his Deebo self. I don't know if it's injury. I don't know if it's scheme. A lot of things have gone wrong in the offense up until this past week. Yeah, we're not going to really talk about it because, they got the dub this past week. But, this is something that's been brewing, in his mind for probably at least the last 4 weeks. Probably since that Seattle game, I would say, where he got very, very limited touches that day. So, I wouldn't be surprised if Deebo, just busts out this game. Coming off a short week, his usage rate was really low this past week. He was just running routes on the field to just run routes. So I would not be surprised, if we see a vintage Deebo game, where he gets like 5 or 6 catches for like 80 yards and, he has like 3 or 4 rushes for like 20 or 30 yards and he gets 2 touchdowns. Like that's what I'm expecting, on a short week against the Rams. And we all know one thing, the Niners literally own the Rams outside of what happened this past season, obviously earlier in week 3. Notoriously, Kyle Shanahan has coached really well against Sean McVay. and it's because the teams have always been about power, and that's something that the Rams defense typically struggles with is the Niners physicality. So the Rams, they just hung 44 points on the Bills, but I expect this to be definitely a game where Deebo Samuel has a coming out party and shows why he's a wide back, right? Like why he got that contract, why he deserves the contract that he signed 2 years ago, and being the hybrid player that he is for the organization.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think this could, if there's ever a game where Debo could be due for a breakout, it's against the Rams. Thursday night game, obviously against an NFC West rival, and this is the biggest game of the season, right, for the 49ers. And for Debo in particular, coming off, you said, like a game where he didn't do anything, and now this little drama, right, with his tweet and everything. You best believe that that Kyle Shanahan's going to look to get him involved in the offense, especially if Isaac Guerrero is out. Debo probably gets a handful of touches in the backfield, maybe some jet sweeps. They'll get him some easy looks and try to get him some into the open space. But this is it, man. I think this is the game, right? The Niners season is on the line. You lose this game, that's pretty much going to do it. I think they have to win. They have to win this game. Obviously, they have to win the Arizona game, which is their last game of the season. The division games are the two really important ones. If they take 3 out of these last 4, right, with Miami and Detroit being the other 2, Detroit's probably the game they would lose of the 4, if any. The rest of the 3 are really, really winnable games for them. But it's all up to the Niners, right? If they come out with the same energy and focus and execution that they did against the Bears, they have a very good chance to win on Thursday night against the Rams. But like you just said, this Rams team just hung 44 points on the Buffalo Bills. Yes, it was a home game for them. Yes, they weren't playing in the blizzard like the 49ers did up in the Bill Stadium a couple of weeks ago. But regardless, right, for the Rams to do this against a Bills team that's among the best in the NFL, a Super Bowl favorite. I mean, Josh Allen scores 6 touchdowns, and the Rams end up still walking away with that win, right? And there's some things the Bills could have done. We talked about this, right? Sean McDermott kind of cost them the game with accepting that penalty on the 3rd down and then taking that timeout, or running the ball from the 1-yard line when he should have just passed the ball, right? Because they had to take the timeout, and that cost them. So the Bills had a chance to win. They just didn't get it done. And here's the thing, man. The Rams beat the Niners in week 3, 27 to 24. It was a game the Niners led 14-0. It was a game the Niners led 21-7. It was a game they led 24-14 with just under 12 minutes left in the 4th quarter. And still, the Niners unfortunately blew that game. We know about the big drop pass by Ronnie Bell. The Niners, with 40 seconds left, let the Rams come down, get into field goal position, and they won that game, right? They stole that game from us. But notable, something noteworthy of that game, at that time, the Rams did not have Puka Nacua. They did not have Cooper Kupp. They were playing with backup receivers. It was Tutu Atwell, Demarcus Robinson, and Jordan Whittington, who were their top 3 receivers in that game. So this week presents a different challenge, right? They have their guys back. Kyron Williams is playing well. He had 3 touchdowns against the Niners in that game last time. This is a team that's looked better. Obviously, their defense is vulnerable. They gave up,
42 points.
42 points to the Bills, so they're not looking any better on that side, right? So the Niners can definitely get their offense going regardless of who's in the backfield or who's on the outside, right? But my concern for the 49ers is, are we going to be able to stop these receivers for the Rams? And that starts with first getting pressure on Stafford, right? Our D-line definitely has to show up this game. If you let Stafford chill back there in the pocket, it's going to be a long, long day, because those guys, Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, are going to shred our secondary if Stafford has time to chill back there. So they have to get pressure on him first. Stopping the run is going to be key for sure. But I think this Niners team hopefully is revitalized after the game last week.
I think they will be. Obviously every Niner fan knows by now, that the talk that they had, the night before the game with Diamador Lenore, Brock Purdy, and George Kittle stepping up to the plate and, just basically addressing the entire roster and just voicing their concerns about how the season has gone and, what they can potentially be and what they will be moving forward. And I think that was really important. It might have come a little too late, but that's something that's yet to be seen, obviously. But if there's ever a get right type of situation, it's playing the Bears and the Rams back to back for the 49ers, right? A team that they notoriously have dominated. Where it starts for me with in regards to how the Niners can actually win this game and win it in dominant fashion. Yeah, you talk about the injuries that the Rams had week 3. Um, that game we didn't have Deebo Samuel or Trent Williams or Christian McCaffrey or Dre Greenlaw or Talanoa Funga. Like, you're missing superstar players just like the Rams were, but the Rams, they just squeaked it out because of, our blunders, right? Drop passes, not being able to, score when we need to score, field goals missed, like all that kind of stuff. So I don't anticipate all that going wrong again. Everything that could have gone wrong in that game did go wrong.
Mhm.
You potentially get Dre Greenlaw back this week, which could be huge, huge for the defense. And we all know how Matt Stafford does against pressure, especially against the 49ers pressure. And I'm pretty sure that, Sorensen is going to have something dialed up. He's going to look at the tape that the Niners have, you know, put
From week
on,
3,
put
yeah.
on, put on film from week 3. What did we do right in that game in the first half to get us that 21-7 lead is something that they're probably going to want to look at. And I'm really excited to see like our offense perform against the Rams defense because the Rams don't have any linebackers of note that can really stop the Niners, and that's what they took advantage of that first week. And if you go back and watch the tape, the run game was working in the first half, and the intermediate throws were all working in the first half. Why? Because they have no linebackers that can actually cover out of the
Mhm.
backfield or in that short to intermediate route. And one other key thing, that week 3, we didn't have George Kittle. This week we are going to have George Kittle, and George Kittle feasts on linebackers that can't cover. So we've seen it the last couple of times when George Kittle's had big games. He's feasting on these linebackers that don't know how to cover, and the Rams. I mean, they just got 42 points hung on them on a short week. They got to play the Niners. I wouldn't be surprised if this is a shootout from both sides.
Yeah.
But I do expect the Niners to put up at least 30 points on the Rams' vulnerable defense.
Yeah, that's a good point. This could very well be a shootout, right? I mean, last time the score of this game was 27-24. We both mentioned what players were missing from both sides, right? Rams missing their wide receivers, like you just mentioned. Debo didn't play, Kittle didn't play on the Niners side, and last time the Niners played the Rams, it was the Juwan Jennings game, right? He had 11 catches, 175 yards, 3 touchdowns in that one. Brock Purdy had 292 yards and 3 touchdowns in that game. He was phenomenal.
That's probably his
And
best game of the year.
8 of his incompletions, on 8 of those, 7 of those were drop passes.
Drops. Yep.
So if not for that, he probably has a perfect passer rating in that game, and they probably win that game if a few of those balls aren't dropped, right? So
Yep.
it's definitely noteworthy that they're going to have Kittle and Debo back in this one, and this game might come down to who can get stops at the right time. And if that's what it comes down to, I do like the Niners to be a favorite a little bit more because their defense has proven at times that they can go out and get the stops when they need to. They have the better D line, whether Bosa plays or not. They still have guys who have been stepping up in recent time. Leonard Floyd has been phenomenal the last 3 weeks.
Man.
He's recorded a sack in at least each of the last 3 games. I think. Adrian in the comments mentioned that Matters Gross, had a really good game last week too. So, what's our guy, the D lineman we got from Houston, Malik Collins?
Yeah, he looked
Had a
really
big
good on
game
Sunday.
last week.
Yeah.
So guys are stepping it up, right? And for this Niners team, it's not about who's out, it's about who's on the field. They've had guys step up all season long. Our young secondary has been playing really well, whether it's Lenore, Renardo Green, Malik Mustafa has been phenomenal, and the duo of him and Hufanga back there as our safeties, they look really good together. So if it comes down to who's going to get stops, I like the Niners' chances. I think, like you just mentioned, the Bills put up 42 on the Rams, and it's not that the Rams couldn't stop them. The Bills kind of just fucked themselves over with some of their play calls and mismanagement toward the end of the game. If not for that, they maybe squeak out the win. But of course, the Rams were able to do it. So, Kyle Shanahan, like you mentioned, he plays well. He coaches well, against the Rams, and him and Sean McVay are friends. But of course, both of them take this matchup a little bit personal, right?
For sure. Yeah, no doubt. And as a Niners fan, you take this personally too, right? Because they have the one thing that we don't have, which is a Super Bowl, right?
Yeah.
In this era of football. So that kind of also stings because I feel like Kyle Shanahan is the better coach. Sean McVay hasn't had the same successes that we have had, but he does have that Super Bowl ring, and he's been to the Super Bowl twice himself. So it always stings when you lost to the team that won the Super Bowl that year, right?
Mhm.
You were the last team standing in front of them, other than the team that they beat in the Super Bowl.
And if there was ever
And
a one that they could have won, it was that year.
that year against the Bengals for sure, with that
We
behind
would
that
have
offensive
smoked
line,
them. Oh my god.
100%. And, Nick Bosa was having like an all-world season that season. Towards the latter half, right? He was
Mhm.
dominating. He was wrecking. So you know, and we had D'Amico Ryans as the defensive coordinator. He would have dialed up so many different things. But that was the year that I felt like if there was a year to win it where the path was the easiest, that was the year for sure. But I mean, beggars can't be choosers, right? Like we've been dealt the cards that we've been dealt. The Niners have struggled, in these big moments, but they, all things considered, however the season has gone, they still have a chance. If they go on a run, they win out. Seattle loses 2 games, they end up winning the division. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that Week 18 matchup against the Rams and the Seahawks shakes out. Obviously, we need Seattle to lose 3 out of 4, which is going to be really really tough. But their schedule is the toughest, probably out of the 4 teams in the divisional race. So I'm excited, man. I'm excited. I mean, I just can't wait until this Thursday, and I'm sure we're going to have a lot to say. The next go around when we do this pod.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. The fact that we're talking about the Niners potentially having a shot at the playoffs, right? Because the way the season started, from you think about the Rams loss, the Arizona loss, where we blow these games. The Chiefs, obviously, they beat us. The Vikings beat us, but 3 divisional games that we lost. I mean, after the Seahawks loss, we thought the season was pretty much
It was over.
a
It was
wrap at that
cooked.
point, right? Because that was a third straight divisional game that they blew a lead in, and somehow, some way, the Niners still have, I think it's like a 59% chance to make the playoffs. And if you had told me after the Seahawks game that the Niners were still going to be in the running to win the NFC West, I would have said no way. But here we are. And look, the Niners they need a lot of luck to make the playoffs at this point, right? They could win the rest of their 4 games,
And
but
still not make it.
and still not make it, right? If things don't go their way. I mean, you mentioned the Seahawks. So they have the Packers, Vikings, Bears, and Rams. Um, 3 of those 4 games are really, really hard, minus probably the Bears game. That should be a win for them.
You
But
never know, though.
you
You
never
never
know,
know.
and especially on the NFL, right? But the Packers is going to be a tough game for them. Vikings will be a tough game. And you hope that the Rams beat them in that last week. Now, again, this is assuming like the Niners beat the Rams this week and go on to win 3 of their next 4. Let's say they lose to Detroit but win the other 3 games, right? The Rams have, aside from the Niners, they have the Jets, Cardinals, and Seahawks. So you would probably need the Cardinals to beat them and then also the Seahawks to beat them. And that's for the Rams not to have a chance to win the
The
NFC.
division.
Or maybe you need the Rams to beat the Seahawks, right?
You
That's
need the
probably,
Rams to beat the Seahawks, yeah, because they have
yeah.
the better divisional record right now.
Yeah. So you need the Rams to, whatever happens with them in the cards, I think it's kind of split. I guess if the Cardinals win that, it's better. But then you need the Rams to beat the Seahawks. And then the Cardinals at this point probably don't have that much of a chance to make it. They play the Patriots, Panthers, Rams, and Niners. So it's a lot of a lot of luck, like I said, the Niners need, and things gonna really have to go very precise for them to win the division. But hey, here we are, week 15, the Niners still have a chance. So if it just comes down to the Niners, do you think they make the playoffs?
If the ball's in their court and all things considered, however the season's gone, if they are really rejuvenated, I'll probably hold my judgment until after that Thursday game, because that is going to be the barometer on where the rest of the season is going to go. Obviously, they obviously played a phenomenal game against the Bears, but can they replicate that same energy, right? That same fire that they had, and just came out like gangbusters, and just blew the Bears out. Can they actually do that against the Rams? I don't know. We'll see. The Rams are pretty good on offense. Obviously we talked about their defensive weaknesses, but we have weaknesses on our defense too that Matt Stafford exploits from time to time.
All the
Other than
time, man.
throwing,
He kills us. He really
he
does.
kills us, and we have gotten used to him throwing like pick sixes against the Niners like every single season. But the last couple of times that he's played the Niners, he's looked really sharp and really accurate. So I expect him to to come out aggressive from the jump. You know, they have all their skill position players. We're missing a bunch of our skill position players, but we've had a lot of guys step up as the season has gone on. So the barometer for me starts obviously this Thursday. Like if they can get to 7-7, you know, like they're going to be second place in the division after Thursday night if
Mhm.
they win that game against the Rams. So it's very, very critical that they at least get to that jump. And you have to hope that the Seahawks lose 3 out of 4 somehow, because that's the only way that the Niners are going to make the playoffs. They have to lose that game against the Rams for sure, and they have to lose. I would hope both games against the Packers and the Vikings, but I have a
Yep.
feeling they're going to split those two. I think they're probably going to end up beating. They're probably going to end up beating the Packers this Sunday night. I feel like, and they're probably going to go on a little bit of slide by losing to the Vikings, and maybe they can lose to the Bears. I don't know, but
I think if there's any
but
game they lose, it's probably the one to the Bears. I mean, they do have the Packers at home on Sunday night, so they'll have like a little bit of the home field advantage, obviously with the 12th man over there in Seattle. But this Packers team is coming in hot too, and you know their division. Obviously, Detroit looks like they're probably going to hang on to win that division, but they're still fighting for seeding in the NFC. And
they are.
you
It's
know
important for them too.
yeah, it's important for them, just like with the Vikings, right? Those two teams are probably going to be your 2 and 3 seeds. It's just a matter of where they fall, and so it's not going to be an easy game for Seattle, even though they're at home. I think,
One
like I
other
said,
thing, one other thing that I wanted to actually discuss is keep talking about the division. You know, the wild card may not be out of the realm of possibility either, because the Commanders, yeah, they have a relatively okay schedule, but they still have to play the Eagles and the Cowboys within their own division. And you know how these divisional games go, bro. Like they can go sideways real quick. Let's say Washington slips and goes 9-8. Niners finish 10-7. I mean, you know, you got to tell me that there's a chance right there, right? Atlanta is going
mhm.
to play the Commanders as well. They're still well in the divisional race, just as much as we are for the divisional race and for the wild card for that matter. So, you know, we keep talking about the division, but it's really, you know, it's really down to like two teams right now, like the Seahawks and the Commanders. The Commanders have to stave off the teams that are behind them as well, and you know, it could very well come down to the last game of the season for, you know, for the Seahawks, for the Commanders, for the Niners, for the Rams. Like it's going to be really heavy for sure.
Yeah, I expect the Niners. Look, even if they, let's say they go on to win 3 of these last 4, or even 4 of the last 4, and somehow let's just say they still don't make it. It would be tough to see them not in the playoffs, obviously, especially if they end the season on a high note. But it would be, like I said, I've been saying, I just want to see them come out and compete. Don't get
Yeah,
blown out by anybody. Don't get embarrassed. Like we were, yes, it's been a down season for the 49ers, but this is a team that's had a lot of success in the last 4 to 5 seasons. So just go out there and play 49er football, play physical, run the ball. Don't give up a lot of scores on the defensive side, get pressure. So yeah, Papa J, that's definitely a wild comment. I ain't gonna throw that on the screen. It's definitely a lot of ifs for the 49ers, but like Stanley said, hey, if the Niners win, Green Bay, there's a good chance they beat Seattle too. There's still hope for this Niners team. So yeah, talent wise, I think we can make it. Yeah, let's see what Kyle Shanahan and Nick Swanson can do, right? If they drop a good game plan come this Sunday or Thursday, sorry, they'll put the Niners in a position to succeed. And if we get Bosa and Greenlaw back, I mean, that'd be huge, especially Dre, man. I mean,
yeah. Dre's a
making
heart and soul, man.
making your season debut against the NFC West rival with the biggest game of the year, a must-win game for the Niners, it would be amazing, So let's see if we can get these guys back and build off the momentum from last week, and shout out to everyone who's been tuning in. Adrian, Papa J, Stanley Cup, Avtar Singh. Thank you guys for tuning in, for the comments. We're all hoping for a big win on Thursday. We talked about earlier how good it felt to start this week with a win on Monday. Because when your team loses on Sunday, that shit sucks. And it sits with you the whole week until the following game comes around. And, for the Niners, the last few weeks, it's been losses on top of losses, right? And it sucks when you're getting blown out like that too, against the Bills, against the Packers. Yes, those are two good teams, but that the Niners can play better than they have been. And the weather conditions were bad, obviously, in the Bills game. The Green Bay game, they just weren't mentally there. They didn't come prepared, right? And they just got played from start to finish. But
Yep.
we know that the Niners team is better, that their record indicates. They haven't been able to close out games this year. They've had a lot of injuries, more than we've seen any other Niners team probably had. And we thought we'd seen it all already with this Niners team, but this year has just been worse and worse. But we're getting guys healthy now at the right time, even though we're still losing some guys here and there. We've had guys step up all season, so there's no reason the Niners can't get another game. So let me ask you this now. What's your prediction for this game on Thursday?
We talked about it earlier today when we were discussing the show and what we would talk about, but I'm expecting it to be high scoring, man, for sure. It's going to be close. Like, as much as I want to see the Niners just come out and dominate, the Rams have just as much to play for as the 49ers do at this juncture. Like, they're
Yep.
playing for their playoff lives as well. Like, they lose this game. I think they have a 49% chance right now as it stands to make the playoffs because they still have to play the Seahawks that last game.
Mm-hmm.
They lose this game, it drops down to 23%. And the Niners shoot up to 40%. So, there's a lot riding on this game for both teams, but the Rams, they're dangerous, man. I expected it to be a pretty high scoring game by NFL standards. I'm saying 31-28. The Niners eke it out. It's going to be a close one throughout. I think it's going to be one of those games where, Brock Purdy's going to have to make some plays in the fourth quarter and the defense is going to have to step up. Hopefully that energy infused from Talanoa Hufanga and hopefully Dre Greenlaw, carries over into that fourth and, the Niners eke one out.
Yeah, I think it'll be a close game too. We won't see a team win by more than a touchdown either way. I think right what you said, maybe 31-28, maybe a 34-27 type of game. It's going to be a one-score game, whether it's a field goal or a touchdown.
Yep.
Yeah, to Papa Jay's point, he said, we're in the weakest, toughest division. It's true. We don't have any extremely really good teams this year. We don't have any teams that are very shitty either, but they're all very competitive and they come out and surprise you on any given Sunday, right? So, and if for whatever reason the Niners were to drop this game, I wouldn't be surprised if the Rams win out and win the division because
at that point they will.
They got the Jets, the Cards, and the Seahawks, and those are three very winnable games for them. So hopefully it's not the case. I do like the Niners to come out. They're at home on Thursday night, coming off the big win. Guys are getting healthy. This team is getting locked in. They know what time it is now. So now it's just about going out there and executing, right? And yeah, like Stanley said, pressure is coming towards Stafford. That's what it starts with. Like I said, D-line has to be big this game. If they can get some pressure on Stafford, I think we'll see some incompletions. I think we'll see him throw a couple picks, but if Stafford has time to chill back there in the pocket, it's going to be a long night, and you're going to see Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua have really big games, and that's the last thing you want if you're the 49ers. They got to be able to get stops on third down, and that's why Nick Sorensen is going to be very important for this game. What kind of game plan is he going to draw up? What kind of coverages is he going to have to shake things up against the Rams, right? Throw some blitzes in there. Don't just rush 4 every single time. I think you really got to try to shake things up when you have a veteran Super Bowl winning quarterback like Matthew Stafford back there. Yeah, I think Stanley, like you said, Niners are winning this one. Defense is going to step up in this game. They had that team meeting last week, which I think really, really sparked a fire on both sides of the ball. We saw guys play really well. And yeah, if Trent's there, Bosa's there, and Dre, if all three of those guys are back, then that's going to be a really, really different game script for the 49ers. So
yeah,
here we go, man. Biggest game of the season. I think it's safe to say that the Niners season is on the line with this game. If you lose this, you could pretty much kiss your chances goodbye of winning the division. But if you win this, you ride out the momentum, get some luck on your side, then maybe in 4 weeks we're talking about the Niners winning the NFC West. But I'm excited, man. This is going to be a big game. Thursday night, prime time. Everyone's going to be watching, two teams that don't like each other, two coaches who used to work with each other, respect each other, but there's a little bit of a rivalry there too. The two young white guys, right, in the NFL that are two of the prominent head coaches too. So I'm excited, man. It's gonna be a big game. It's nice it's gonna feel like a playoff game for sure on Thursday night.
100%. It's going to feel like a playoff game. And, one little interesting nugget that I wanted to throw in there. When the Niners score 30, they're undefeated. When they give up 30, They've lost every single game this season. So,
Mhm.
that number 30 is going to be really important come this Thursday for sure. Whether we score 30 or we give up 30 is going to really dictate like how this game goes. So, I think the Niners have to hold the Rams under 27 points to win this game. If they allow the Rams to score more than that, it's not gonna look good. So I'm excited though, man. Like you said, like it's about pride at the end of the day too. Like they could win this game, they could win out and still not make the playoffs, but you don't want to finish last in your division, man. Not with a team this stacked, not with everything that's riding on what was supposed to be, a team that was going to be really good this season, but obviously, injury luck and all the personal things that happened to the players, all that stuff like kind of like ballooned everything into like this massive thing that nobody wanted to see, right? So, but they still have a shot. Like after everything that's happened, right? They still have a shot. They have to get lucky for sure. And I think they can get lucky. I think it shakes out in their favor if they win this game. Um, you know, I don't believe in Geno Smith. I don't know if he can really ride this momentum if he experiences a bad loss against the Packers or something like that. So it's gonna be interesting. This is a big game for us, and I expect the Niners to win, man. I expect the Niners to win like I do every single week. So I'm looking forward to it, and I hope come next week when we talk about this game, we're talking about the good vibes only.
Yeah, I mean, hey, we should definitely there's a good chance we'll try to go live maybe right after the game on Thursday too. Do
Yep.
like a little instant reaction because then it's a long weekend for the Niners. They'll have 10 days before their next game. So we'll catch you guys here on Thursday night, hopefully talking about a Niners win. And I'm sure it's going to be a very good game that comes down to the wire, a one possession game. So everyone get your Niners gear on Thursday. If you guys are going out to Levi's, have fun, be safe out there, and catch us here for the post game because we'll definitely do a little instant reaction. And let's hope the Niners go out there and get a dub because it's time to beat LA, man. This is the biggest game of the season. So thank you guys all for tuning in. I'm Sandeep. This is Aman with me, my co-host, and this is the Deep Dive. Please like, subscribe, and share. Tell your friends about the podcast, and we will catch you guys here on Thursday night.
Thanks, guys.